Hey, history lovers. Ever been scrolling online or stuck in a heated debate when someone drops the wildest line, well, Hitler did some good things, right? Yeah, I know, it's like hearing a record scratch. Claims like fixing the economy or building highways get thrown around, but are they legit? Or is it just propaganda doing its sneaky thing? Stick around as we bust the myths, the propaganda, and the real history, with a sprinkle of humor to keep it chill. Let's dive in. Welcome back to Weird and Bizarre History, where we dig into history's toughest topics with facts and a bit of sass. Today, we're tackling a super controversial question: did Adolf Hitler do anything good? Now, before you hit pause, let me be crystal clear, this video is not about praising a dictator. Hitler's regime caused the Holocaust, World War II, and unimaginable suffering. Millions died because of his actions. This video is about understanding what people claim, why they're wrong or misled, and how history gets twisted. We'll look at things like Germany's economy, the Autobahn, and more, but don't worry, we're keeping it real and respectful. History's heavy, but we're going to make it clear and approachable. Our goal is education, not glorification. Before we start, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss our deep dives, and maybe grab a snack. This is going to be a journey. 1. The economic recovery. Alright, let's start with the big one, the economy. If you've ever heard someone say, Hitler fixed Germany's economy, you're not alone. It's one of the most common claims out there, and it's got some numbers to back it up, at first glance. So, let's break it down, step by step, and see what's really going on. Spoiler, it's not the heartwarming success story some folks make it out to be. Back in 1933, when Hitler became chancellor, Germany was in rough shape. The Great Depression hit hard, and unemployment was sky high. About 6 million people were out of work, which was like a third of the workforce. Fast forward to 1938, and that number dropped to under 1 million. That's a huge change, right? Jobs were popping up, factories were humming, and people were back to work. On paper, it looks like Hitler waved a magic wand and made Germany great again. But hold up, let's zoom in on how this happened. First off, the economic miracle wasn't about helping everyday people live better lives. The Nazi government poured money into building weapons, tanks, planes, and all sorts of military gear. Why? Because Hitler was gearing up for war. This wasn't about building schools or hospitals, it was about creating an army to conquer Europe. The Nazis spent billions of Reichsmarks on rearmament, which created jobs, sure, but it was like putting the entire country on a war footing. By 1939, over half of Germany's budget was going to the military. That's not exactly a feel-good economic plan. And here's the kicker, a lot of those jobs weren't as free as they sound. The Nazis used forced labor, people who were basically coerced into working, including prisoners, minorities, and later, people from occupied countries. The regime also banned trade unions, so workers couldn't negotiate for better wages or conditions. Imagine getting a job, but you can't complain, can't strike, and you're basically working for the Nazi war machine. Not exactly the dream gig, right? Another thing, the economy looked good on paper, but it was super unsustainable. Germany was racking up debt to fund all this military spending. By the late 1930s, they were seizing assets from Jewish people and other targeted groups to keep the cash flowing. That's not economic genius, that's theft to prop up a failing system. When World War II started, the economy was already wobbling, and by the end, Germany was in ruins. So, yeah, the unemployment numbers went down, but it was like putting a shiny paint job on a car with no engine. It looked nice until it crashed. Let's talk propaganda for a sec. The Nazis were masters at making themselves look good. They blasted out posters, films, and speeches saying, look at all these jobs. Hitler's saving Germany. And people bought it because, well, times were tough, and any job seemed better than none. But this wasn't about prosperity, it was about control and war. The economic miracle was a myth designed to make Hitler look like a hero, when really, he was setting the stage for destruction. So, next time someone says, Hitler fixed the economy, you can hit him with the facts. Sure, unemployment dropped, but it was built on weapons, forced labor, stolen money, and a one-way ticket to war. Not exactly a glowing resume. So, yeah, the economy looked shiny, until it was all tanks and tears, like polishing a car before crashing it, or giving someone credit for cooking a great meal, but the kitchen's on fire, and the food's poisoned. Yikes. 2. The Autobahn propaganda. Next up, let's hit the road, literally. Another thing people point to is the Autobahn, Germany's famous highway system. You might hear, Hitler built the Autobahn, and it's still awesome today. Okay, highways are cool, who doesn't love a smooth drive? But did Hitler really invent this, and was it some kind of selfless gift to the German people? Let's peel back the layers and find out. Here's the verifiable part, under Hitler's regime, the Nazis did expand the Autobahn. By the late 1930s, they'd built thousands of kilometers of highways, which was a big deal for the time. Modern roads helped move goods, people, and, yep, you guessed it, military vehicles. The Autobahn became a symbol of progress, and even today, it's a point of pride in Germany. So, on the surface, it sounds like a win, but let's dig deeper, because the story's not that simple. First off, Hitler didn't invent the Autobahn. The idea for a national highway system was floating around in Germany as early as the 1920s, before the Nazis even came to power. There were plans, and some construction had already started under the Weimar Republic. When Hitler took over, he basically took credit for an existing project and supersized it. It's like walking into a party someone else planned and saying, "Yo, I made this happen." Not cool, Adolf. Here's where it gets darker. The Autobahn wasn't just about making travel easier, the Nazis saw it as a military tool. Wide, smooth highways were perfect for moving tanks, trucks, and troops quickly across the country. This was part of their plan to dominate Europe. Plus, the construction wasn't all happy workers building a better future. The Nazis used forced labor, including prisoners and later people from occupied territories, to build these roads. So, while the Autobahn was shiny and new, it was built on the backs of exploited people. That's not exactly a heartwarming infrastructure story. And let's not forget the propaganda angle. The Nazis loved showing off the Autobahn in films and posters, saying, "Look at this modern Germany we're building." It was a way to make people feel proud and distract them from the regime's darker actions, like stripping rights from Jews and other groups. The Autobahn wasn't just a road, it was a billboard for Nazi power. They even staged big opening ceremonies with Hitler cutting ribbons, like he was some kind of highway hero. It's like giving a pyromaniac credit for buying matches and saying, "Wow, what a great lighter." So, what's the real deal? The Autobahn was a pre-existing idea that the Nazis expanded for their own goals, military power and propaganda. It wasn't about making life better for regular folks, it was about control and war. Yes, the highways are still used today, but that's like saying a broken clock is right twice a day. The Autobahn's benefits don't erase the fact that it was tied to oppression and destruction. Next time someone brings it up, you can say, "Sure, the roads were nice, but they were built for tanks and propaganda, not picnics." 3. Other cited achievements. Okay, let's look at some smaller things people sometimes point to, like animal welfare laws or anti-smoking campaigns. Yeah, you heard that right, some folks claim Hitler was a friend to animals or cared about public health. Sounds almost wholesome, doesn't it? But let's put on our history goggles and see what's really going on here. Spoiler, it's not as nice as it sounds. Let's start with animal welfare. The Nazis passed laws in the 1930s that protected animals, like banning certain types of hunting or regulating how animals were treated. On paper, that sounds great, nobody wants animals to suffer. But here's the catch, these laws weren't about kindness. They were tied to Nazi ideology, which obsessed over things like purity and nature. Protecting animals was a way to push their weird worldview, not because they were secretly running a pet rescue. Meanwhile, the same regime was rounding up millions of people, Jews, Romani, disabled folks, and others, for persecution. Caring about animals while committing genocide? That's not a glowing character reference. Then there's the anti-smoking campaign. The Nazis were actually ahead of their time in linking smoking to health problems, like cancer. They ran ads and programs to discourage smoking, which sounds like something a modern health guru might cheer for. But again, context matters. This wasn't about saving lives, it was about controlling people and pushing the idea of a healthy German race. The Nazis were obsessed with their twisted vision of perfection, and smoking didn't fit the image. Plus, they didn't care about health when it came to forced labor camps or gas chambers. It's like a villain recycling their evil plans and expecting a gold star for it. Talk about mixed priorities. There are other small things people might mention, like promoting physical fitness or building public works. But every single one comes with a catch. These weren't about improving lives, they were about propaganda, control, or preparing for war. The Nazis were experts at dressing up their actions to look good, but it was all a facade. The animal laws, anti-smoking stuff, and other policies were either superficial or tied to their toxic ideology. And let's be real, when you're responsible for the Holocaust and a war that killed tens of millions, a few nice laws don't exactly balance the scales. So, why do people still talk about Hitler's good deeds? It's not just random chatter, there's a reason these myths stick around. First, Nazi propaganda was insanely effective. They flooded Germany with images of happy workers, shiny roads, and a strong nation. That messaging was so powerful that some of it lingered, even decades later. Today, you might see these claims pop up on sketchy websites or in heated online arguments, often without the full story. Another reason? People love simple narratives. Saying, Hitler fixed the economy, is easier than explaining the messy truth about debt, war, and forced labor. Plus, some folks use these claims to downplay or excuse the Nazis' crimes, which is dangerous and wrong. That's why we need to dig into primary sources, like economic records or historical archives, and think critically about what we hear. These myths also get traction because history can be distorted online. Social media, forums, and even some YouTube videos might cherry-pick facts to make Hitler look less monstrous. But facts don't exist in a vacuum. A highway or a job doesn't erase genocide. If we focus only on the good, we lose sight of the millions who suffered. So, let's keep asking questions, checking sources, and calling out propaganda when we see it. History's too important to get wrong. Phew, that was a heavy one, but thanks for sticking with us. So, what do you think about these myths? Have you heard other claims about Hitler's good deeds? Drop them in the comments below, and let's keep this conversation going. If you learned something today, hit that like button, it really helps us out. And if you want more history deep dives with facts and a few bad jokes, smash that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss a thing. Your support keeps us digging into tough topics like this one. And one last time, this video is about education, not endorsement. We condemn everything the Nazis did, full stop. The Holocaust, the war, the suffering, that's the real story, and we'll never forget it. Thanks for watching, stay curious, stay critical, and we'll see you in the next one.